is able to sit close and witness one of the best to ever do it. Certainly stepped up to the challenge and earned his mama. There goes that man.
Welcome to the first ever episode. And it's going to be like a prelude. It's going to be basically a trial run. We're excited, crossed up. It's going to be really sick. I'm pretty pumped. First ever episode. We're going to be talking about a ton of things. I can't wait. Like, I'm so excited that God has put in my life to be able to start doing this stuff. And honestly, I've had many inspirations around me recently that have really started a fire. And I want to thank all those people. They know who they are. But I want to thank those people because I wouldn't be starting this unless there was a couple people in my life that really didn't push me to and show me in their own lives. So I want to definitely thank all those people. I want to first and foremost thank God. And so we're going to be talking about godly stuff. We're going to be talking about sports, politics, everything. I'm like really excited about this whole deal. And I'm excited today, too, because I get to do my first ever episode with one of my best friends, and it's going to be really cool. We're going to be talking about the Eagles Super Bowl win, and unfortunately he's an Eagles fan, but this is what we got, and this is all money can buy right now. So, Coletraiin, come on down.
No one likes us. No one likes us. No one likes us. We don't care. This is Philly, in Philly, no one likes us, we don't care. Woo!
You're an Eagles fan, right, Cole?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. All right. So, tell them where that came from.
That was, it's actually my boy. I got the t-shirt right here. It's Jason Kelsey, he's a center for the Eagles. Obviously, during a Super Bowl celebration, you probably drink a little more than your average day. And he was just excited, just went on a little rant. Had probably one of the best Super Bowl speeches that I've ever heard. But obviously, that's a biased opinion.
It was pretty sick.
But it
was cool.
It was very cool. Just it was kind of like the perfect cap.
We were looking at it
to end the season.
Yeah, we were looking at it, and it was like this guy should be in WWE.
Yeah, he'd be the perfect
awesome.
manager.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. I remember just looking, and we were like, dude, this is crazy. This guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, the whole crowd went crazy, too.
Yeah.
Like,
they did the whole Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Like 5,000-6,000 people there?
Oh, minimum.
Maybe more.
Philly's first championship in
Super Bowl era?
I'm saying like sports. Well, I mean Villanova, but the major sports.
Yeah. And
it's the first championship.
Let's be honest, they've been they're a sports area, diehard.
That is Philly.
So, how do you feel? Let me know. Let me know how it's
feel like Super Bowl champs, man. Like, there's no other way to describe it.
So you've had a little bit of time to chill on it though, but we're going back to it because the reality is we don't got one. Like Jags don't have one. You got I can only imagine what you're going through.
I don't want to say sometimes you forget. But, it's basketball season now, so we've been watching a lot of basketball.
Yep.
But then it's like this, as soon as someone brings up football or like the Eagles, I'm like, we're Super Bowl champs, baby! It's incredible.
I remember going through the season and we had that one moment where I was like, so what happens if the Jags and the Eagles both go to the Super Bowl?
And I was like, we will not talk through the 2 weeks in between.
So when did it hit you that it was going down, and when
that they were winning?
When they won the Super Bowl, that moment right before. I remember you talking about it a little bit, but you said, "Oh my gosh, we just won the Super Bowl."
Yeah.
What was that like?
I figured in my mind that morning. Of course, I went out to a bar and I was drinking, so I figured in my mind, I'm gonna lose my mind. When they win, I'm gonna be jumping up and down, screaming, taking my shirt off, running down the street. And then it happened, and the clock was on 0, and the Eagles won, and I couldn't move.
Yeah.
My mouth was shut. It was pure silence. There's chaos around me, but I'm the only Eagles fan in the whole bar, and I'm the only quiet one in the bar. Everyone's so happy that the Patriots lost.
Oh.
And I'm just sitting there They did it.
Yeah.
Like, they just did it. And it was wild. I can't.
I remember you telling me
explain
that you were thinking in the back of your mind, Tom Brady's about to drive this ball down and crush your dream.
Every series
Yeah.
that the Eagles had to leave, it's like, okay, when
Tom
Brady, like, when does he become Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, he had the greatest quarterback performance in a Super Bowl.
It was incredible.
It was like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, like something wild.
Dude, I literally experienced exactly what you thought you were going to experience the week before.
The week before.
And it was just like, we were up by, I think it was 15 or 14, and I'm like, this might really happen. I might really go to the Super Bowl. And then Tom Brady just did what Tom Brady does, and it was awful. And it's like, you get that darkness that you're like, I hate this guy, I cannot stand him. But there's a part of you that's just like, man, he's so good.
Like, damn, he's done this to everyone. I can't imagine that he's doing it.
And you're
to
sitting
me
there
right
and you're
now.
like, man, I'm witnessing LeBron and Brady at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, you really got to put those two, and maybe even Brady higher. I mean, that's crazy to say, but the reality is it's possibly true. And I know that, like, when you went through the actual, like, Super Bowl experience, that was by far the most amazing part. But I do want to rewind a little bit, and I want to go back to when Wentz went down, because I remember the household. I didn't want to talk to you because I
didn't want to talk to anyone either.
It was crazy. So tell me what it was like to see your number one guy who's just killing it. Bite the dust.
It was. I mean, it was hard. It's still hard to think about, just because it was an ACL and like for a mobile quarterback, like even him coming back this year, I'm like, is he gonna be the same?
Yeah.
Like, is he gonna be able to play his game? But it was definitely tough. My mindset at that point was pretty much like, okay, well, it was a good run. That was I think week 13.
Yeah. Crazy.
And at that point, they were 11-1, something like that. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, we're going to the Super Bowl anyway. And then Wentz goes down, and I'm like, well, at least there's next year. Was my whole mindset.
Yeah, I do know that. Like, okay, so you guys were dominating pretty much all season, and like from an outside perspective, because obviously not an Eagles fan, but when teams are doing good, all of a sudden, 13 weeks in, you're taking notice.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to my mind was they're the Falcons this year. They're going to play great in the regular season, and then they're going to fall apart in the playoffs. And I thought that, but I was like, I wanted them to do good because I wanted you to get to see it. But it was like the writing was on the wall in my mind. Like, this is who they are this year.
Yeah, when you take the personal side out of it and you look at it.
And then when Wentz went down too, it was like, oh, this is it. This is where they're going to crumble, dude. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. Cole's going to hate this.
Yeah.
And then you won.
And then,
And then you won.
And it was still a shaky end of the regular season.
Yeah. You were figuring it out with Foles.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy, too, because it really did. It looked like maybe win the first playoff series and then done. Maybe round 2.
Yeah, luckily, I mean, Wentz pretty much had them the first round bye, like, when he got hurt. If the Eagles didn't have the first round bye, like, who knows? If they had to play that extra game in the playoffs, who knows? But
that would have been nuts.
They had just enough out of Wentz in the regular season to kind of get him there.
So, at what point did you realize with Foles that it was like, this guy can actually possibly bring us to a Super Bowl? Like, you knew him from before, but...
It was, obviously, like, I watched the 27 touchdown, 2 interception year. Like, it was an incredible run with that. But then there was a 5-year stretch where he wasn't that guy.
Yeah.
And to see him, like, I mean, I've always been a Nick Foles guy. Like, it's just... He's a good dude. Like, like, just in general, not even as a football player.
For a while, I was a Chad Henne fan. He's not great. He's just, he was the guy that...
He was your quarterback.
Like, he was a backup quarterback. You're like, let's go.
And
well, yours was a starter initially, so you fell in love with him with that season, and then it was like, you wish he would do good again, but...
But yeah, it was really The NFC Championship game, because the second round, their first game in the playoffs against the Falcons, he looked shaky. Luckily, they pulled through, got that win, and then it was against the Vikings NFC Championship game where, they blew him out, and Foles looked like a guy that could contend.
Yeah.
And that's when it was second half NFC Championship game when the Eagles were up 30. That's when I was like, okay, Foles could he might be able to do this.
Okay, so
still huge underdogs, but
you're the GM of the Eagles today. Do you keep Nick Foles or do you trade Nick Foles?
It's a tough question because obviously he's got 1 year left on his deal. He was on a cheap deal. So, sports in general it's a business. Mm-hmm. So you want to get rid of someone when they're at their highest value if their value isn't highest with you, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So if they could get something useful out of him, then sure. But honestly, the draft's already passed, so they'd have to wait for another year's draft.
It's not going to happen soon, but I'm just saying,
It was same thing kind of happened with Bradford. They drafted once, and they said Bradford was going to be the guy. Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt in Minnesota, someone needs a quarterback. The Eagles get a first-round pick for him.
Yeah.
They didn't trade him draft night. So, if something happens like that, then, sure.
I understand
be okay with it.
Yeah, I understand that the draft's over, so, I'm just saying, you got an expendable quarterback. That's how I look at it. If you don't, the old adage is you have two cool quarterbacks, you have none.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be bad. I don't think you guys will have that problem because
I don't know.
They're too good of people.
Nick Foles said after he won the Super Bowl that this is Carson Wentz's team. So I think that was huge right there.
That takes a lot of you have to be real humble.
Yeah.
Because Foles could make a lot of cash.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, really, really fast. So I definitely was because I actually didn't think about that until you just said it. I forgot he said that. Yeah. That's actually pretty awesome that you have a guy that's willing to say, I just won a Super Bowl, but I'm still going to be the backup. That's pretty cool, though.
We rolled with him, though. As soon as he went hurt, I think it actually still might be my profile picture. It was just a picture of Nick Foles.
Really?
Just his headshot. As soon as Wentz went down, and I was like, gotta just roll with him, man.
Mm-hmm.
Go all out for him, and it worked.
So, for a long time, to switch gears a little bit, for a long time in Philly, the heart of Philly was LaShawn McCoy. And he gets traded.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later.
For a linebacker.
Yeah, and then a couple, who's not on the team anymore.
Well, not he played 1 year on the team.
So, a couple years later, you guys win the Super Bowl. And that's all you guys had was LaShawn McCoy. He was the heart. You had Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
But once those guys were gone, Macklin was gone, LaShawn McCoy was...
He was the guy.
He was brother Philadelphia. He was the heart and soul of the team for a long time.
From there. Played college in Pittsburgh. He never really left the area. He was always there.
And if we're honest, if it was not for Chip Kelly, he probably would have still been there.
He would be.
And he would have probably indulged in that Super Bowl. Depending, you'd have to. There's a lot of questions for that.
Yeah.
But my question is, do you feel for him as a Philly fan? Do you still?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I still have his jersey.
I know.
I wear it during the season. He hasn't been on the team in 3 years, and I still wear the jersey. It's.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. I couldn't imagine how he feels. Chip Kelly is so hated in Philadelphia now. And then I can only imagine how long LaShawn McCoy feels.
No, I know for a fact, he's very public about it, that he hates Chip Kelly.
Oh, yeah. Every time they played, every time Buffalo played.
Under the Chip Kelly era, though, a lot of people have, they just have a bitter taste in their mouth towards Chip Kelly.
Mm-hmm. And why wouldn't you?
And but I'm from the fan perspective. If I'm a player and a coach does that to me, I'm gonna be really mad.
Yeah.
And I was very upset as a fan. Mm. But looking back, if Chip Kelly doesn't make all those moves, who knows if he's still the head coach? Doug Peterson might not come over, and we might not have a Super Bowl.
It's that
so
butterfly effect.
It's just
one thing.
You gotta believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy too, because
that was it.
That is a perfect transition into my next question. Because everything does happen for a reason. I honestly believe that with all my heart. I don't care if it's sports or not. I believe God's hand is in everything. So, like, my question is, what does the faith of the Eagles mean to you? As someone who I would say is not necessarily a devout Christian, but you understand some of the nuances of Christianity and how it works. And you see all these guys, you see people getting baptized in the team tub, you see your tight ends coming out talking, you got all these guys coming out, veterans, and of course your leader, Carson Wentz, his foundation and all that.
He was the whole movement.
Yeah, and it changed. So as someone, do you see it as something like it was just a side note to what propelled them? Or do you see it as God allowed this team to win a Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, like you said, I'm not a very devout Christian. I was raised in a Catholic church, which I mean, there are similarities, but it's not
similarities.
Like,
I don't want. I'm going to be honest. There's similarities, but the Protestant and Catholicism is pretty much same.
Yeah.
The only thing they believe in at the same is pretty much Christ himself.
Yeah.
But other than that.
So like I get it at the thing that it is for me more than anything is that something brought the team together.
Yeah. No, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, like regardless of like what it is, anything, like if you get one thing that can bring a 60-man football team together like that, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like it could have been
anything.
Literally anything. It could have been a checkerboard. Like if that's what got the team together, like it is but whatever it was.
Yeah. It was amazing for you.
Yeah, I mean, even still, like it's there's some players that were in that movement. Like I know Trey Burton was a big one. He's no longer on the team. He still does. I did see a video. Him and Nick Foles were at a sermon, like doing a Q&A. So he's still like involved with the Eagles, even though he's not on the team. Like they'll always have that brotherhood.
Oh, for sure. And one of the craziest things I'll say too about the team is that, of course, not every single player was a Christian and was a devout Christian. But to see like players coming to faith, like for someone who is a devout Christian, like there is things going on behind the scenes that we can't see, that sports can bring people together naturally.
Yeah.
And like the goal is to win a Super Bowl, and that can bring people together. But you do need that one thing that you're all like, you know what, we're family, or we're like this is more than me. Like
you need.
And you guys found it, and it was like, and I'm so glad it was God because there was so much glory brought to God through the whole deal. And I say this jokingly, but I really meant it. It was really making me a big fan of your team for the season.
Yeah. And
I was like, because we got so many players that are like, every week you see them, they're assaulting their wives, and you get all these drug problems and all these things, and it's just good to see a team that was like, no, we're gonna win a Super Bowl. We don't care what anybody thinks. We're gonna do what we want to do.
They did it their way, and it
was beautiful.
Yeah, that's the ironic thing about it is because that's the Philly way. The Philly way is to do it our way.
Yeah.
Like, and they found their thing, and
it's funny too that his chant is like, "No one likes us, we don't care," and it's like, well, that's kind of how you can. And obviously I don't think he's a Christian, but like I'm not sure about that. But I'm saying that's the mindset that you do get when you start like I seen the NFL take RG3, and I seen them take him during a press conference and make him put his Jesus shirt inside out. Like they didn't care. It wasn't a big deal to them. No matter what happened, they were like, Carson Wentz was like, I'm gonna rep this. I actually watched a devotional on my phone that was from him, and he had a sermon that he was doing. Like that stuff's amazing, like, to be able to dive in and get into that stuff and really bring glory to God the way that we're called to do as Christians. And I just thought it was really cool. But I wanted to see your perspective on
Yeah.
it. Like, as a fan, like, I definitely could see, like, if the Jags ever came together for any reason, I would be like, so basically what I said before was, like, it was like a side note to you. Like, you're like, oh, well, that's cool. I'm glad it worked.
Yeah.
Like, so that, I can understand that for sure. But that's definitely awesome that worked out. And so one other question I wanted to ask you too is, like, yeah, you went through, like, to kind of change gears again, you went through McCoy, you went through Murray, and you had two top level backs at the time.
Yeah,
You
at the
guys got
time,
both of them.
both top 5.
And I don't remember you being upset about either one.
I had both of their jerseys.
Yeah. And I watched you burn Murray's.
Yeah, tried to break the curse. Didn't work.
It did not work. And then you get J.J. in such a weird way, and like he comes off a season where he wasn't breakout or anything like that. He was just average. And like, how did he fit your team, and how did like he start coming alive a little bit? I know that like obviously out of the main players on your team, he wasn't like a big deal, but you need that running back. Like,
yeah. It was nice just because the Eagles they definitely had a running back by committee. And LeGarrette Blount was the lead guy. When they got J.J., it was kind of like a last minute, literally out of nowhere. I had no clue that like the Eagles were even in the market for a running back. I thought they were just going to go with what they had. And so you can never be mad about your team picking up a feature player at a position.
Yeah, no, of course.
Because he's not top 5, but he's
good,
a
like,
good
reliable
young running back.
Reliable.
And I think a lot of his trouble the first half of the season was that just Miami was just that bad. Like their offensive line, it was just they weren't a good running team. So obviously if an offensive line can't block for the running back's not going to get good numbers. But just to have a feature back in Philly again was nice because it had been a couple of years with like a running back by committee, and like as far as I've been an Eagles fan, it was Brian Westbrook for 6-7 years, LaShawn McCoy for 5 years, and then it was like DeMarco Murray for a year, like Darren Sproles. Luckily he was there, but it was like he was kind of just shifting around. He was never the primary guy, so it was nice it's nice to have that guy. And even now, like LeGarrette Blount is gone, so he'll be the primary back.
And LeGarrette Blount has made his rounds. Like he's been, but every time he goes to the Patriots. he gets a new contract with another team because they're like,
he still got it.
Yeah. So that's one thing that was pretty crazy that I thought is you've always had like this rotating running back like the last, I would say even 8 years, like so that's been pretty crazy. But I guess one of my last questions here is, how do the Eagles repeat? How do they go back again? And do you think they can?
I think they can. Obviously.
Yeah, but what are you gonna say? Like.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be like, no, they're not gonna. They're not gonna win. Like, no. Like, but at the same, like, as hard as it is to repeat in the NFL.
Convince me. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Basically the same core.
Yeah, which is.
And that's the key in football is like just having those same guys. And again, it's all going to be kind of dependent on Carson Wentz. Even Nick Foles coming off of the Super Bowl MVP, I don't think he could do that for the whole season.
No.
If he was a starter for a whole season, I could still see the Eagles going 10-6, just because of the talent around them. Yeah.
Which wasn't prevalent until you realized that they were winning games after Wentz went down.
Yeah, and it's even just the depth at every position, defensive line. Was huge for the Eagles because they always just had a fresh piece to rotate in.
That's what it is nowadays too.
Yeah.
As a Jags fan, I'm like loving it.
Yeah, even with Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, they're 2 best pass rushers. They probably only played 60% of the snaps on defense.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's incredible. Just to have so many pieces being able to rotate in. But I think just consistency is going to be like the key to repeat. As long as they can just come back and play Philly football like they have like the last 2 years, then they have a chance. Because I mean, Doug Peterson is just he's a fantastic coach. He knows when to take risks, and everything with him is calculated. He doesn't do anything just like Like, fine, we'll just do this. Like, it's calculated in his mind, like, what he wants to do.
I think during his speech, he referred to Doug Peterson saying, what coach that isn't even supposed to be there goes for it on fourth with a trick play in the Super Bowl?
4th and 2.
Like,
fourth and goal at the 2. Went with a trick play. Like a tight end pass to the quarterback.
He must have been sweating bullets.
The thing that I love about that, though, is, and I've watched the mic'd up Super Bowl.
Did you?
It wasn't Doug Peterson's idea. Nick Foles walked over and Nick Foles walked over, and obviously it had been a play that they had practiced for a few weeks. And Nick Foles just walks over to him, and Doug looks at his play calls, and he's going to pick something, and Nick Foles just goes, Philly, Philly. And Doug Peterson looks at him like, you crazy son of a gun. Let's do it. And that's like, he looked at him like that, and he goes,
you're insane.
Yeah, let's do it. And it worked. And it's just...
So you look back and you go, if Pete Carroll calls the pass and it's complete, whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
If it works, you're a genius. Yeah. If it doesn't, you're the worst coach in the NFL. At least for that year.
It literally just comes down to execution, you know.
And you know what's kind of funny too is the year before, like the year before that, we were talking about how bad your corners were. Yeah. Isn't it amazing how once you get a pass rush, all of a sudden the corners that were terrible start looking a lot better?
Well, it's easier to look good when you only have to cover someone for 2 seconds compared to 4. I mean, these wide receivers are insane in the NFL now. Yeah. They're Olympic sprinters that can do a 10-foot high jump and then catch.
Yeah.
That's what these wide receivers are now. So you have to be literally better than every wide receiver to actually be a good corner.
And then on top of that, they're practically getting every rule tilted their way. Yeah. And then they're wearing sticky gloves that Odell Beckham's making one-handed catches like it's his job.
He needs 3 fingers to catch a football.
And it's not just happening here and there. He's doing it every game, to show that he can do it. So to be a corner and then to be one of the elite guys has got to be insane. Yeah. And then your boy stepped up this year. All I remember us talking about is how that was such a weak point for you the year before, and then all of a sudden it's like this defense is legit.
And it looked like it was going to be bad again. We had Stephon Gilmore went down very early in the season. We traded for him, and it was like week 1 dislocated his ankle.
Yeah, Bills fans were happy about that one.
They were, but Jordan Matthews also got hurt for them, so fair is fair.
Fair is fair. That's awesome.
But when that happened, we had Patrick Robinson, who was kind of a journeyman corner, wasn't really known for anything. By the end of the year, he was one of the top 5 corners rated by Pro Football Focus.
You wake up, you get a Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you've never had one before, and you're like, okay, here it is. And we were talking before about how you're obviously a Miami fan, and the LeBron ones were expected, so it was like, this was like a gift. This was like Christmas.
Being, grew up a Yankees fan, so that's...
Yes.
I experienced my first championship at 4 years old. Didn't have to wait very long. Granted, I don't really remember it, but I watched it. And so I've seen Yankees win 6-7 World Series. I've seen Miami win 3. But for me, it was just I grew up watching baseball, and I didn't watch football because I didn't play football. When I was a kid, I played soccer. So it's how I became an Eagles fan.
I didn't even know that about you.
Yeah, it's how I became an Eagles fan. The first football game that I ever, still to this day that I remember watching was the Eagles play the Patriots in the Super Bowl in 2004. Mm-hmm. And for something about it, I still to this day, I have no clue why, but I was just like, man, I'm rooting for the Eagles. It was just like that. And then ever since that day, it's kind of crazy. I just, randomly, I watched a football game. It could have been any 2 teams. Mm-hmm. Could have been. It was the Patriots too. I could have been all right, well, jeez. I'm gonna root for the Patriots. Yeah, how awful would that have been? I would have seen 5 Super Bowls, but how awful would those 5 Super Bowls have been?
For Patriots fans, they would not have been awful at all.
They're incredible.
For everybody else, you're like, ugh.
Yeah, but it's just something so small like that. And ever since then, I fell in love with football. Football's always been, like my sport to watch. Like, I mean, I love basketball now just as much.
Yeah, it's equal for me now.
But yeah, like back in the day, like it
Growing up,
was
always
football, no question.
Yep.
My love for basketball has only come about really within the last few years. I'd say the last 8 years. Like LeBron coming to Miami really fueled my love for basketball, obviously, just because that was so much fun to watch.
Well, have you heard that interview that Tom Brady just had?
No.
Okay, so they were talking to Tom Brady, and they were asking him like about the drop in numbers in the NFL, like why is the viewership going down? And obviously the media was trying to point it more toward the protests and stuff like that.
Protests,
But Tom Brady was like, I don't think it's that. I really believe that there's so many avenues for different types of entertainment on your phone, on your tablet, whatever you're using to watch, that the NFL used to be on TV every single Sunday, and you knew when it was coming on, but you have so many different things that are going on all the time if you want to watch news. And he said, I think the viewership's gone down because there's too much to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And basketball, football,
your
YouTube.
Fingertips, you can literally watch anything you want to at any moment in time.
Yeah.
As long as you have a cell phone in front of you.
And so that's why he thinks that the NFL, he doesn't think it's necessarily from the protests. I think we're going to find out more about that, the protests, and whether or not it is. Yeah. Because the NFL owners are thinking about making it to where the team gets to decide. And you're going to see there's going to be more button heads about that in the future. And Cap's trying to really fight his way back in and really, I don't want to use the word disrupt because I believe truly that he's doing what he believes is right. Yeah. So that's okay. But, like, it's going to be a distraction for the NFL. And I think the NBA could really capitalize if they're smart. Adam Silver is very, very
the
quiet.
NBA in general they have a much wider reach just because basketball is a global sport. Like football, you might see small time leagues over in Europe, China, whatever it is, but the other countries don't have an NFL. Yeah. In basketball, you have the CBA in China, you have different leagues in Spain, you have leagues everywhere. And you see it in the NBA now. Like if you looked at the NFL and you looked at the players and what countries they were from, I would say 95% of the people are from North America.
Yeah, they have to be.
You look at basketball, I'd say probably only half of the players are actually from North America.
There's less players, but obviously the sport is more worldwide than football.
You have even Giannis Antetokounmpo from Greece, one of the best players ever.
And it's crazy we can say that already.
Yeah.
One of the best players ever already.
And Porzingis from Latvia.
But yeah, when you think of Dirk, you're like, this guy's on his way down, but if you remember what he did, you can see why the NBA would definitely start bringing in more people. And with the last 3 hits, the last few seasons, it's definitely huge.
And Dirk and Germany, it's the same thing with Yao Ming in China. That's why basketball is so big in China. It's because of the biggest man in the NBA, Yao Ming. It was just, he created this whole different perspective on Chinese players, and you see it with Jeremy Lin still thriving now. Granted, there's not as many Chinese players, but I think anything else, when the time will come when you will see waves.
Floodgates, they'll just open. But I think we're getting pretty close on time, man. Yeah. But it's
been fun.
It was awesome chopping it up. I'm glad that you were my first interview with you. It was pretty awesome.
It was fantastic.
I hope that whoever watches it enjoys everything we talked about. Even though I know a couple fans probably aren't Eagles fans, but they'll get over it. Super Bowl champs get the glow.
You can be, though, if you want to be. It's completely fine.
People get the glow. They're allowed to do whatever they want. But I love you, man, and I'm glad to have you on.
Love you too.
This won't be the last time, I guarantee it,
not.
because this was fun.
Yeah.
We had a good time. But, all right, man. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And,
all right.
I'll see you later, man.
It's been fun.
I'm going to do my conclusion
here.
Do
a little outro here.
All right. First episode of Crossed Up. It was pretty sick. I was excited. Me and Cole chopped it up pretty well. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I want to start a little tradition though with my episodes. Every single one I finish with, I want to share the gospel because it's very key to everything. God be the glory with everything I do, because without Him I wouldn't even be here, and without the people around me to lift me up, I wouldn't even be here. So I definitely want to share the gospel. God changed my heart. I want to help change your guys' heart. The reality is we were born apart from God because of the fact that sin separates us from Him. So the reality is when we continue to live our lives without God, we're continuously moving in disobedience with God. And the reality is people think God hates them or God is against them. But the reality is you might be an enemy to God while you are not with God. The reality is He still loves you. And He wants you to come to faith, and He wants you to understand what His Son did on the cross and what Christ did for you. So the reality is today I would ask and I would plead with you to understand that you have sinned against God, and you have to understand that and accept it, and understand that you are not a good person. You're not these things that you believe that you are. The reality is if you are anything other than perfect to God, you're evil. You have to understand your heart is evil. So once you understand that, then you can go into your Bible and look into John and understand that God gave Christ for your sins, for a perfect sacrifice, because Christ was sinless. Therefore, when His sacrifice was used, it was enough to completely subside God's wrath. So the reality is without Christ, you are constantly walking toward God's wrath. And I implore you and I ask that you would understand your position with God, which is a sinner, and understand what Christ did on the cross, which was give you a perfect sacrifice to cover up. It's almost like if you are in court and you don't have any bail money, Christ paid your fee. He paid for your sin. That's exactly what the gospel means, and that's exactly what Christ meant when He said you have to be born again. He gives you a new heart. He gives you a new soul. He changes who you are, changes your mindset. And I just want to end by saying I love y'all, and I'm very grateful for the position I'm in, and to be able to start this. And have a blessed day. Amen.
It could be my last game anytime I step on that floor, so I got to give them all.
What goes into a streak to get you to the level you've been at over these last 12 games? What goes into that, Kevin?
My God. That's all I have to say. Jesus Christ.
Okay, thank you. You're not.